Hello, ladies. How are you doing today?
Hey, we're doing good.
Good, really good, yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. So, where are you ladies from?
New York?
Yeah, New York.
Awesome, awesome. So, what do you think about animals?
I'm obsessed. I wish that I worked with animals. It was my one regret in life.
We don't deserve them.
Yeah. So, you would say you are like animal lovers?
No.
Yeah. What do you girls think about animal abuse?
Obviously, don't love that.
Is that a question?
It's not even a question, right?
Not even.
Animal cruelty and exploitation, bad stuff.
Obviously, yeah.
Let me ask you something. You ladies eat animals?
She does not, no.
You do?
I do, yeah.
What do you eat? Are you vegetarian, vegan?
I eat fish, wild caught.
Oh, so you do eat animals as well. Okay. So, do you think there's some sort of like inconsistency there between your like values and actions? With those two propositions in conjunction, you girls being against animal abuse, but simultaneously like killing them, eating them, for example. What do you think about that? Do you think it's morally problematic to like exploit animals for food, for example, and other things like that?
Well, that's why I eat fish and not meat, because I don't really see a difference between a cow and a pet dog. To me, it's the same, but that's just me.
I mean, that's actually something I struggle with all the time, is like me being an animal lover and also eating meat. I actually think about that all the time. Where I'm like, ugh, okay, here I am doing that. I'm not a big meat eater, but I do eat meat. Like, I don't make it at home, but if I'm out, I'll eat meat. But I actually, no, I think about that all the time, whether or not, you know, me being someone who loves animals so much should be eating meat, or should I go vegetarian? We talk about that all the time.
I think it depends on what country you live in as well. Like in America, the meat industry is
Bad.
just fucking terrible. My family comes from Germany, and eating meat there feels a little bit less sadistic because you know where it comes from. Like, even if it was gross, my friend's dad would have the deer hanging off her swing set. So at least we know that it wasn't, you know, cruelty.
I think I'll talk to you in a second, but I think there's just less animals to defend with her since she just only eats fish right now. You do consume dairy, eggs, stuff like that?
I don't do dairy, but that's just because my stomach doesn't like it.
Do you see any ethical issues with like the dairy industry?
In America, yes.
Okay, so it sounds like you do think there's like humane ways to like slaughter these animals and exploit them. What would you say is would be like a humane way to go about processing meat or whatever, or dairy and eggs?
I don't know enough about farming, to be honest.
So can you like imagine some sort of scenario where you would think it would be ethical to like kill somebody that doesn't want to die, for example?
If you're talking about humans, I care less about human death than I do animal death, I think.
Okay. But what do you think about like innocent animals? Like, because animals are like children in that way. So presumably you do care about like human children.
Yes. Well, animal children as well. I don't understand why people have to eat.
But they're
baby
innocent,
animals.
right? They're innocent beings. So do you see like there could be like an ethical way or a humane way to basically kill somebody that doesn't want to die?
I don't know. I'm sure there could be an ethical way, as long as we're not torturing them while they're alive.
So let me ask you something. Like, if those like humane kind of farms that you are visualizing right now, if we were to replace all those animals like with human children, and we were like exploiting children for their, like hypothetically, right, for their dairy or whatever, or for like for their meat, we would do it in a humane way, but we were like bringing children into existence and slaughtering them when they're like of a good enough age for us to consume. Would you feel comfortable giving your money to that if it's like this like with the same standards of the meat that you would see as ethical or humane? If we were doing that to human children, would you see yourself comfortable with paying for that, for example?
Well, I'm not a cannibal, so no. However, if animals ate us, that's fine. That's fair.
But do you see it like as something worse because it's cannibalism? Is that what you're saying? It's like it's more morally problematic than doing that to animals because you have like some sort of like rule against committing cannibalism. That you see cannibalism especially wrong or something like that.
Yeah, like if I saw a wild cat eating a human, okay. If I saw a wild cat eating a cat, I'd think.
So you think it's like a species thing, like makes it see it worse for you, like. Like because they're the same, they're Homo sapiens as well. Like, is that what you mean by they're from your species? They share your DNA. You could like interbreed with them, something like that.
Yeah, I guess.
But let's say we would find, like, hypothetically speaking, we would find like another species that was like identical to us, and we found their children, and they were like physically identical, psychologically identical, but they were not our species at all. So it wouldn't be cannibalism at all, because they would technically be from another species. Would you see it as ethical to farm those children that are from another species, no Homo sapiens, for like meat in a humane way, like in the same way you would do that to cows, chickens?
Aren't pigs very similar to us genetically? And we do that anyway?
Yeah. So the question is, do you see it as unethical to do that to those beings? Like, even in a humane way, if we were doing that to children that looked exactly like human children but were not from our species, would you feel comfortable, like, for example, paying for that, or would you say it would be ethical to pay for that if it was done in a humane way, where they were brought into existence and then killed painlessly and stuff like that?
If they're not killed as children, if they're killed later on in life, maybe.
So the infanticide thing would be wrong, but if they're killed a little later on, it would be fine for you? You would you see yourself giving your money to that industry that slaughters beings physically and psychologically identical to human children?
I don't eat any animals, so I don't like it at all. But if
not eating it. Let's say exploiting them for dairy in that case, and for their menstrual cycles.
Exploiting, which is interesting.
Well, by exploiting, I just mean using them as means rather than ends. Like, basically, commodifying them, using them as objects to produce something for us, instead of like seeing them as sentient beings that, and give them freedom. We're like enslaving them, basically. So that's why I use the word exploitation.
To an extent, I think there's ethical ways to get eggs and dairy. I think that can be ethical without the slaughtering part.
But even in the context where it would be like beings identical to human children, except from another species, so not cannibalism in any way, but like just beings identical to human children, you would see a situation where we're like using them and enslaving them for like dairy and eggs or whatever. You would like see yourself paying for that. Or would you see it as something ethical? If it was done in the same way it was done to the animals, you think it's humane to do it?
I don't think I see myself paying for any of that.
So you don't see yourself giving your money. Would you say it would be unethical to give your money to that?
My personal preference, I wouldn't, but other people can have their own decisions on that. I mean,
I just think I see a little bit of a contradiction there, because you told me that the thing that made you see it as a morally abhorrent, to a greater degree morally abhorrent than the animal context, because they're the same species, so it would be cannibalism. But in that context, it wouldn't be cannibalism. So what do you think is the thing you're caring about there, if not like cannibalism per se? Like, what do you think is true of animals that, if it was true of humans, would make it okay to do that sort of thing we're doing to animals but to humans? Like, basically using them for milk, dairy, and then slaughtering them when they're of age or whatever. What do you think is true of them that, if it was true of us, would make you have the same attitude in the context of humans?
I think it comes down to the brain. So if you have chickens and cows and things like that who you give plenty of land to, and they get to roam, and they get to, I mean, what they like doing is eating and roaming and sleeping, but the human mind can't just eat and sleep, and we need to do more things, and so there's no humane way to hold us in captivity. You can't give us enough land just to eat and sleep, because we need to do more. We need more purpose. So I think that's a big difference.
Do you think that there's like marginal cases that exist right now of humans that have like mental disabilities that possibly are have cognitive levels similar to the animals that we slaughter right now?
No.
Well, let's say hypothetically we found a group of humans that had cognitive abilities to the same degree as cows, chickens, pigs. Like, basically they could do those sort of things that you claim they can't do, like just roam, eat, sleep, repeat, do that, and they're like content doing that. Would you see yourself then in a marginal case like that, in a hypothetical scenario like that? Would you see it as ethical to use those beings for like their dairy or their eggs and then slaughter them?
The hypothetical is too tricky on that one because there's no like human brain. There's no mental illness or disorder that creates a human that is zombie animal. Like there's
No,
no
not zombie. Like, you think animals are zombies?
no, but I don't think they have the same brains as us. Obviously,
Sure,
they
but
don't have
that's
the
like
same
that's like an
ethics.
empirical claim, right? But it could be. You can imagine a situation where a scientist tells you right now, "Hey, actually, these humans right here have cognitive abilities similar to that of animals. They have minds or subjective experiences similar to that of animals that we slaughtered right now." Let's say that was true. Let's say a scientist, that's undeniable. Those humans exist right now. Would you say it would be ethical to like group them all up and like you don't like the word exploitation, but just basically use them for our own benefits? Would you say it would be ethical if it was the case those humans exist right now?
I'm not sure. They wouldn't be human. They would be something else then.
So you would be like agnostic about whether or not it would be fine to like take their freedom away from them and use them for dairy and then kill them?
Everyone has different standards for freedom. Chickens don't need a whole university and schooling and purpose and, you know.
I'm pretty sure they want to live though. They don't want to be killed. They would rather
They're
like
not
not be
getting killed
exploited.
for their eggs.
Well, when they can't produce any more eggs, they're like the standard practice is to kill them because there would be like an extra resource that you gotta like take care of, and the males are useless to the industry. The males are just murdered the first day of life. But yeah, like regardless, like what do you think like chickens want? I do think chickens would rather be free and live. But regardless of that, like what do you personally think about a situation like that? Like would you see it as like morally acceptable to like if it was the case that humans like that existed, that were like mentally identical to cows, pigs, would you see it as ethical to like bring them into existence through artificial insemination, take their dairy away from them, take their children away from them so we can have the dairy, and then kill them when they're of age?
I think those hypotheticals are too difficult for me to create an opinion on them. But
So you don't know. How do you think about that? You see you picture a situation like that, and you couldn't say if it would be unethical or not.
I just couldn't picture a situation like that.
But can you visualize it in your mind right now? Like a scientist came right here, told you, hey, these people exist right now. It's undeniable. They have minds identical to pigs and cows or whatever. Like, maybe he told you right now, would it be okay if I started a meat industry with these beings, or a dairy and egg industry? Would you say yes or no? Or would you say, I don't know if it would be ethical?
I'd have to learn more about these hypothetical beings.
So as of now, you would be like agnostic about whether or not it would be fine to basically farm and slaughter beings identical to mentally disabled people that possibly exist right now in human society?
Well, they don't possibly exist. They don't.
What do you mean they don't possibly exist? You say it would be impossible for a being like that to exist?
Yes, a human without a mind is impossible, yes.
What? Impossible? When you say impossible, what do you mean? Impossible in like what modality? You think it's logically impossible, physically impossible? What do you mean? Because obviously there's people with mental disabilities, right? There's people with mental.
Yes, but people
have you
with
met?
mental disabilities still have a mind, and they have ethics, and they have.
Do they have ethics in like? Don't you think there's like, for example, don't you think that there could possibly be like children or humans that are so mentally disabled that the sort of experience that they have in their everyday life is similar to the experience that pigs have? Like they just care about eating food.
Absolutely, the fuck not.
So you never met anybody
I work
with
with
like.
children with special needs, and they are not cows. They are human.
So you would say it's like impossible for a being like that to exist. Like impossible how? Like you think it's logically impossible, physically impossible?
I think it doesn't currently exist in the way that you're making it sound. So it's hard for someone like us to be like, oh, yeah, I would be more or with against that when it's not something that exists, and you're creating out of your mind. So
It's an empirical question whether or not it exists. Like there's something in philosophy called the problem of other minds. We actually don't know how other beings feel. We don't even know. We can't even prove that other beings are conscious beyond ourselves. It's like impossible to prove. But like we could like. It's not. I don't think it's logically impossible or physically impossible to like have beings that if we were to figure out how they feel, we found out that they feel exactly like pigs, chickens, pig. Like those animals are like intelligent as well. Those animals like they have families. Solve problems. They can survive in the wild. They do all sorts of shit. That's it's pretty smart of them to do that. Like animals are amazing. Like I don't know how it would be impossible for humans like that to exist. But regardless or not, if it would be, like we could like picture a hypothetical situation where it would be. Like we could like imagine that like it's not hard to imagine this. Like a scientist told you right now, those humans do exist.
Like a person who's in a coma?
Are animals like in a coma?
So you're comparing these creatures to they would be human creatures, but they would have the minds and reasons of animals, is what you're saying?
Yeah, so they would be like animals subjectively speaking. So they would be physically identical to us, but they would be mentally disabled to a degree where their subjective experience is similar or like identical to that of like animals that we slaughter. Like I don't know how that would be impossible.
I don't think there's any answer to that question until it's real and you learn about it, and until you know everything about it, you can't answer that question.
So you don't think that you could reply to hypotheticals, to logically consistent hypotheticals? No?
Hypotheticals don't have answers. You have to know everything in order to form a correct opinion.
I don't think that's true. Like somebody could ask me right now, like if you were to travel back in time, would you sleep with Cleopatra? Yes or no? I could say yes. I could say no. She's not my type. I don't know why I couldn't answer hypothetical questions.
I would absolutely say I have no idea to that question.
Would you sleep with Cleopatra?
Yeah, how would I know the answer to that? I don't know.
Let's say they show you pictures of her. They show you like how she looks like, how her personality. You study her first, and they show you footage, and then they say, if it was the case that a scientist right now developed time travel technology and travel back in time, would you like sleep with Cleopatra? Yes or no? Or you don't know? Would you be able to answer that question?
What type of STDs did they have back then?
Let's say it's STD free. She was like she's completely STD free. Would you sleep with her? Yes or no? Or you don't know?
Man, how this conversation has drifted.
I mean, there's
I'm just pointing out how like it's very easy to answer hypotheticals that don't exist right now.
It's very easy for you to say that people can answer hypotheticals, but everyone is different. Some people have scientific minds, and we have to like know everything before we answer a question. We don't answer. You want us to answer a hypothetical question so that you can prove your point, and I understand that. But
I'm just exploring your values.
No, I get where you're trying to like come from, but we're just as people, we can't answer hypotheticals.
I'm just exploring like the logical entailments of your values, like because you gave me the trait of having the cognitive abilities to the same degree of humans, but like I'm just picturing a situation where like we found humans that have cognitive abilities to the same degree of the animals that we slaughter. I just don't understand why you couldn't like look at your values and answer. Tell me what would your attitude be to a situation like she told me she couldn't answer it. She doesn't know, and she can answer that question. But can you think you could provide an answer? Let's say if a scientist right now told you these beings exist, like it's true, like it's beyond any reasonable. All the evidence points to looking at the neural cortex or whatever of these beings. They have cognitive abilities identical to that of cows, chickens, pigs. And the scientist will ask you an ethical question. Do you think it would be ethical to farm them and slaughter them, those beings? What would you say? Yes, no, or you don't know?
If you put it black and white, is it ethical to slaughter something? Using the word slaughter, I don't know. I can't answer that. I don't know. Because, animals kill other animals all the time. It's not different. But the exploitation is a different thing, like you're saying, like farming and yada yada. But there's also been ways that these farm-to-table restaurants have farms that do it ethically. So it's like, where's the line? Can you do it ethically?
So you actually like don't know. You don't know if like you would say like you would be agnostic about whether or not it would be ethical to basically violate the rights to life of those beings that are in society right now. But the scientists told you they have minds similar to that of pigs. You would be like agnostic about whether or not it would be ethical to by slaughter. I just mean like, kill for meat or and by exploit I just mean use them for their resources like dairy and eggs.
I'm agnostic to that idea of a human-like but not human creature being used for their milk and produce.
There's too
You
many
would be
questions.
agnostic about whether it would be ethical. It's just one question right now.
No, there's too many questions to your question. So the scientist, who's funding the scientist?
Well, that's irrelevant to the hypothetical.
That's very relevant.
All of
Because
these are
depending on
irrelevant then,
who's-
'cause it's all
There's
hypothetical
too many
and not
questions
real.
to your question.
Well, the hypothetical is simple. Like you can't picture anything for it to sound
Nothing in life
like
is simple.
it could be
Nothing
like
is
an
simple.
omnipotent being came down and told you, I'm actually the creator of the universe, and I have something to tell you. There's humans right now that have minds identical to that of pigs, chickens, and cows. If you found yourself in that situation, I just want this information. I want what would your attitude be in a situation like that? If you were right now in that situation, picture it. Like God came down from the heavens and he told you, these group of humans right here have minds identical to the cows, chickens, pigs in existence right now in the world. Like, would you say it would be ethical? I'm writing my commandments. Do you help me out? Do you think it would be ethical to slaughter them for meat and to use them for dairy and eggs?
I would question whoever this fucking person is. Who are you? Who says you're God? You say you're God? Prove it.
Let's say you have perfect knowledge.
Questions. There's no such thing as perfect knowledge. Like, you want one answer, but there's too many questions to provide one answer. Every question has another question behind it.
Well, to me it
You
sounds
need literal facts.
to me it just sounds that you girls are like running away from the hypothetical questions, because I think you know what the logical entailments of your views are. Because the logical entailments of your view right now, because when I asked you to name the trait, you told me that the morally significant difference between us and animals that justifies slaughtering them, using them for meat, and it would be like the kind of experiences that we have, like the cognitive abilities that we have. But if I found you a marginal case, that is possible. There's no logical contradictions, no physical impossibility about this situation. If we found beings that were humans but have minds like that, I'm just asking you, yes, no, or you don't know, would it be ethical to farm them? You don't want to give me an answer because because it would lead to either a contradiction or reductio. So in formal logic, a contradiction is when you have a proposition, its negation in conjunction. It would create a contradiction if you say no, because it would mean that the morally significant difference is, and it is not, the cognitive abilities. So that would be an logical contradiction. And if you answer yes or you don't know, that would be a reductio ad absurdum. Like your position would be reduced into you saying that you don't know that if those beings deserve human rights that exist right now, possibly exist right now.
If you're questioning ethics and morals, I think it just is. I think that's what you're trying to get down to, right? Is the ethics and morals?
What I'm doing right now is exploring your values, specifically your values. I just want to know, what would you think about a situation like that?
For me, when it comes to my values and when it comes to how I form my opinions, I can only form my opinions when I have all of the facts. And so when there's a hypothetical situation, I can't form an opinion because I don't have all of the facts. And so that's where I stand. I need to know all of the facts before I have an opinion.
Why do you think? What fact do you think you need in this situation, this hypothetical?
There's millions of questions I have.
So you can't picture a situation in which you all had all those questions answered, and those beings just existed.
With hypotheticals. I need facts. I'm not good with hypotheticals.
Well, I think that's unfortunate, because I think hypotheticals help us explore what our values are, and like even if we have to think what are the logical entailments of our views, and those are the sorts of logical entailments of your view.
But my values are that I won't form an opinion on something unless I have all the facts, and that's what my values are.
Yeah, but what logically follows from the values you pointed out, which is like the thing that differentiates morally humans from animals is the cognitive level, or the cognitive abilities that humans have. It would follow logically from that if it was the case that marginal cases of humans existed right now that have minds similar to that of animals, it would logically follow that you would be fine slaughtering them and using them for milk. So that's the fact right there. That's what logically leads from the values you pointed out to me, or you said you had. But either
Depends what you believe the word slaughter is. Do you think animals that kill other animals, do you think that's slaughtering?
Depends what the definition of slaughter. I don't think slaughter, like in the case of like killing for food, it depends how you define slaughter in this case. We could just use killing.
I think animals are allowed to kill animals for food. That's how animals have survived throughout history.
Including you? Like you have like all these alternatives where you could like live a life where you don't use others, you don't kill other sentient beings. Why would you still choose to kill other sentient beings?
I don't kill other sentient beings.
Well, you said you kill fish, no? And you do kill sentient beings.
Yes, I don't hunt my own food. If I had to hunt my own food, I probably wouldn't eat animals. But realistically, you don't kill fish. You eat.
Do you think fish are sentient?
I don't know. Fish are so different. I don't know what to think of them.
Yeah, but at least they do share central nervous system. They have brains.
Right, but
So sentience seems to be an emergent property of brains. Fish have brains. So why kill beings that have brains when we can just eat plants, for example? We can just eat something else.
Well, then there's the argument that plants can sense pain and danger now. So do not eat plants either.
The question is what?
A lot of plants that they've been doing tests that can sense danger. They can sense when they're about to be clipped, when other plants around them are clipped. There's an argument now that plants can feel pain and danger. So
No, I don't think there's any scientific consensus that plants
There
feel
is.
pain. Consciousness seems to be an emergent property of central nervous system. So having a brain, for example, like plants don't share brains. But even if
Plants don't need brains. They communicate in other ways. The trees in a forest all
trees
communicate.
literally
The
have
mushrooms
So
all communicate.
yeah, exactly. So plants do react to stimuli. There's a difference between intelligence and sentience. Plants are intelligent in that they react to stimuli in the same way that a computer reacts to stimuli, a calculator, like artificial intelligence. But what?
But you would agree a tree, mushrooms, they're alive, no?
Of course they're alive, but they're not sentient.
eat
I do.
things
I
that are
think exactly. I don't care about killing things that are alive necessarily. I think what gives moral worth to a being is sentience. Do you think there's like it would be like a do you personally think there's a big ethical difference between like biting into an apple or stabbing a dog in the neck right now?
What?
No, because it would clearly show you that plants aren't sentient. If you have that, like you don't have an attitude where you think plants are actually sentient. If you think there's a difference between biting an apple or like biting into a puppy right now and ripping it apart.
An apple is already dead. It's been ripped off the tree, so now it's dead.
Well, let's say cutting down a tree with a machete or cutting down the neck of a puppy with a machete. You think a big ethical difference between those two actions?
Yeah. But my argument wasn't that.
Same. I don't think plants are sentient. I don't think we have
My argument was
reason
I
to believe.
thought about the hypothetical situation. What if someone told you right now, in a hypothetical world, plants have a brain and they feel pain? Would you eat them?
No, if it was proven to me with see how I answer hypotheticals, I don't have trouble answering hypotheticals. I know exactly what leads from my value. If it was the case, so let me answer your question. If it was the case that plants were sentient and they have non-trivial amounts of sentience to the same degree that the animals I care about have sentience, like let's say, because it could be the case they have trivial amounts of sentience where they just experience light or the color blue and they don't suffer, sort like that. But if it was the case that they suffer to the same degree as animals and shit like that, it would be wrong. Yeah, I would rather starve to
so-
death than exploit them. Yeah.
In that case, you wouldn't eat animals, you wouldn't eat plants, you wouldn't eat insects in that case. What would you eat?
Well, is there anything non-sentient that could provide nutrition to me?
No, everything that is alive is sentient. So what would you eat?
I would first starve to death than like violate
Okay, then all of us are going extinct. Every single animal on the planet will go extinct then, right?
not the herbivores. Well,
Yes, they
in this case,
Everything is affected.
Everything
Yeah,
has
it's
to
all an
eat
ecosystem.
something.
Yeah.
yeah.
And
In this case,
people
we're
have
even
been eating animals for the beginning of people in general. So,
The
and it
problem
actually
is
has a
the way that
balancing.
we farm them and abuse them.
Yeah, and I can
So
agree
let
on
me
that.
ask you ladies something.
You can't argue to everyone and make them change their minds in a conversation about,
I'm just explaining the logical entailments of your position, but see how I answer the hypothetical. I would rather starve to death than exploit sentient life or kill sentient beings that have a.
Would you judge your mother? Because she didn't starve to death. She stayed alive and she gave birth to you just for you to kill yourself.
Well, she's plant-based right now, but anyway.
No.
But like before
Plant-based right
before we go there, I want to ask you a hypothetical question because notice how I did answer the question easily. I said
You can answer any hypothetical you want, but you can't sit here and force me to. You have.
I'm gonna ask it. You can reject.
We don't have an answer to your question.
Let's say
Keep going round and round and round. You want us to answer a certain way, and we're not doing it. And I
No,
feel
but
like
let's
you're
say-
getting very frustrated.
no, I'm not frustrated at all. No, not really. I'm happy to defend animals all the time. So I'm just in the same way that you girls tell me that the thing I care about. Every life in the planet has sentience. I would say I would rather starve to death. Like let me ask you, let me ask you just between
Natural selection.
exactly. So let me ask you this: in a hypothetical situation where everything that you could possibly eat was other humans, would you also like me choose to starve to death, or would you kill other innocent humans to sustain yourselves?
I don't know. It's raining.
So you don't know if you would like.
No, I don't know because I'm not stuck in a world full of humans where the only option is cannibalism. I don't think anyone knows. What
It's unfortunate that you just hypothetical dodgers. That's very unfortunate. I'm just trying for you guys to reflect on your values. You started this conversation saying that you're against animal cruelty and exploitation, and then the rest of the conversation was you girls trying to justify it.
To make your point, and I don't think you did. Good
Well,
try.
I actually exposed to the audience the contradictions that are entailed by your guys' positions.
Tried,
That's,
but I don't think it worked.
what do you think? What do you think it worked? I did point out the logical entailments of you girls, because that was my hope.
You think you're smarter than women, but you're not, just because you're speaking in.
No, I'm just here to defend animals. I don't think I'm smarter than anybody. I'm just here to defend animals.
Okay,
No, no. Have a good one.